I know. Welcome to UCLA Extension Department of Business, Management, and Legal Programs video lecture series on business plan development, entrepreneurship, and new venture formation. The video that you're about to watch will give instructions on how to start and complete the case study process. I'm Harry Redinger, your instructor. There is a total of over 40 videos in this lecture series that integrates with our UCLA Extension online course management program, Canvas. Each video strives to be brief. However, there's much overlap in each video to tie the entire curriculum together. Okay, let's get started. At the beginning of, well, not all, but most of our videos, we're reviewing potential final exam questions that could be drawn from this video. And so we want you to be looking for answers to the following 3 questions. First, list the steps to start and complete the case study process. Now also know that we refer to the term case study process and strategic planning process as absolutely identical to each other. They're interchangeable. The case study process, however, is more known to be used with a story or the individual. And once we understand where the individual is going, then we'll apply this to the strategic planning process as to where the business is going. Our next question is, what are the 4 outputs of the case study process as well as the strategic planning process? So you're going to learn over and over and again through many of these videos that businesses that develop and implement a business plan earn 10 times more in profit for 4 specific reasons. And these 4 specific reasons are also the outputs of the case study process and the strategic planning process, which are a mission statement, a vision of success statement, organizational structure, and phases of competitive development. Our next question is, true/false. Can the case study process be used as an advisory board agenda? So the purpose of this question is to help you realize or to emphasize that the case study process is, yes, a formula that we can solve just about any kind of problem with, but we can also use it as an agenda. So if you have to organize a group of people and guide them through a decision-making process, what you're about to learn is an excellent agenda for doing that. I sometimes refer to this as the magic of business if we do it right, but it's a known fact statistically that businesses that develop and implement a business plan earn 10 times more in profit of firms of the same market niche and size that don't. And we can attribute that to 4 specific reasons, which I've mentioned earlier, but I keep mentioning them over and over and over again as we go through our lectures here. First, is that we've developed a missions. Click this. So first is that we've developed a mission statement, and there are 3 parts to a mission statement. And by the way, there's a whole video on this later on in our curriculum. But the first part of the first sentence is identifying what we're selling, and then the second part of the first sentence is whom we're selling to. So if we think about it. And here's my trusty compass, that our compass, a mission statement's like a compass, so that by identifying what we're selling to whom we're selling, in terms of if there's 360 degrees in the economy, that this should pretty well point us in terms of the mission statement, what area of the economy are we headed in. The second reason why businesses earn 10 times more in profit than others is that they've developed a vision of success statement. If you don't know where you're going, you won't know when you get there. So a vision of success statement, what makes it different than a mission statement is that it pins down the economic objective. There's got to be a number in here, market share, number of employees, number of facilities, percent of market share, which I've already said, but we should be able to look or read the vision of success statement, and the key thing is get an idea of how big you want to get this business to be. You know, a mission statement it should be valid whether it's a one-person firm or a 500-person firm. It shouldn't change. However, the vision of success statement should pin down how big this business model could get. And from an investor standpoint, they want to know. They want to get an idea. If I put $100,000 into it or $250,000 into your business, what can I expect to get out of that investment 3 to 5 years from now? So we have to identify where your head's at from the standpoint of how big do you see this getting in 3 to 5 years. And the reason why we say 3 to 5 years, that's generally the period where an investor wants to have an exit plan in place. Next is an organizational structure. So businesses that develop and implement a business plan develop some kind of structure. Rome wasn't built in a day, and you can't eat an elephant with one bite. And so we have to have an idea of what we're building before we can have a plan to do that. And then finally, and let me come back to this. I want to emphasize an organizational structure. The process of building a building and the process of building a business have much in common with each other. There's got to be a foundation before a frame before a roof, etc. So we have to be able to break that down into components, just like the human body has organs. There's heart, lungs, etc. If one goes down, the whole show goes down. So organizational structure gives us the drawings of the business we're going to build, and by mastering that and understanding that, that takes us to our next objective, and that's our phases of competitive development. The sequence we're going to go through to execute the mission statement to build the business model, the organizational structure, to achieve the vision of success statement. So they're all interrelated with each other. But it's important to understand these 4 components because we use the case study process as well as the strategic planning process to get some kind of idea of where we're at in this particular area. This diagram is important because everything hinges on the mission statement. So we use the strategic planning process and case study process to establish our mission statement first, and it takes the most amount of work to do that. And then once that's established, then we start working on the vision of success statement, the organizational structure, and our phases of competitive development. Okay, so here is our actual case study model. And we're going to do an overview of the components of the case study model. But I want to emphasize the red ball in the middle where it's, that says case study. That's the computer, that's the abacus, that's the app, that's the engine that creates the output of the mission statement, the vision of success statement, the organizational structure, and the phase of competitive development. But right now we're going to go around the parts, the input and the output. So first is the biography. And there's a whole video on how to write a biography, which at this point in our curriculum you should have already read. But it is fabulous. It is a fabulous way for establishing all the relevant facts. And the story of your life is a very significant relevant fact in terms of all that's taken place and having an understanding of the trajectory of your life and where you're going. So the case study process really does have to take that into consideration. Next is the Myers-Briggs type indicator, and these are aspects of you that are innate. You just do that. You don't even think, you just do it. So we know the more that we can align the mission statement, vision, org structure, phase of development with the unique characteristics of your psychological type, the more likely you are to be successful at what you're going to do. As we've mentioned many times in our lectures, it's all about alignment. It's all about aligning who you are and where you've been and who you are with where you're going. And the Myers-Briggs is just an essential aspect of understanding and integrating your psychological type into this process. Our next objective here is to understand our career skills. And the strong interest inventory is a fabulous instrument to get these types of skills and interests. I think the key word here is interests. Because we just have more energy, more focus to engage things we're interested in than things that we might not be. And what's also kind of cool about the strong interest inventory, it asks questions that deal with just almost idiosyncrasies, but the combined way you answer these questions, when applied to a database where hundreds of thousands of people have answered the same question and found career nirvana in a particular path, then and the strong inventory also puts together and assesses specific interests and skills relevant to the requirements of specific interests and skills of specific types of occupations. So when you put the short-listed skill sets and occupations into this process, combined with a Myers-Briggs, combined with a biography, it's just kind of amazing what we can come up with. So the next part is, as I mentioned earlier, the case study. This is the machine. This is the computer. This is the app, the process that takes the input and then spits out the mission statement, the vision of success statement, the organizational structure, and the phase of competitive development. Okay, so when I come back again, I just want to read this. You know, I cannot emphasize how important this is. Businesses, and we can also say life plans, career plans, lives that develop and implement a plan, a life plan, a business plan, earn up to 10 times more in profit, and we can also say achieve 10 times higher level of happiness. That's key. You know, the return on happiness versus, you know, return on investment. But 10 times more in profit and or life fulfillment happiness than firms or lives of the same situation, and market niche in this case, don't. So there's certain benefits to taking the time to align yourself with your life mission statement, the vision of success for your life, understanding the bodies of knowledge that you have to master to execute the life mission statement, to build the infrastructure for your life to achieve your life vision of success statement. Okay, let's jump into the case study process. The case study process is a process of 6 steps. But before, and step 5, we do what's called the SWOT analysis. And we're going to go through each one of these. But before we do, I want to emphasize, and I love this image. And I want you to really integrate this to how you think. And, you know, it's like brain strength. But anyone who's gone through any form of a graduate level training in law, in business, and psychology have the case study process burned into their brain. It's how you think. It's just how, when you're presented a problem, you know, you just think, what's the problem? What are the relevant facts? Brainstorm all the possible solutions. Shortlist it down to the 3 most likely. Then do a SWOT analysis on those 3 most likely, and then make a recommendation to whomever. So this is a formula, but it's also agenda, but it's so useful in so many ways because it's a way, it forces you to be objective. It forces you to take your emotions out of it and go, you know, if this, then that. What are the facts? And given these facts, how can I find a solution amongst all this factual information? Another reason why this is also important to embrace this. You know, life has a lot of ups and downs. I mean, you know, catastrophic ups and downs. And I mean, to the point where suicide becomes a solution. I'm half being humorous and half being very serious. And one of the things I like about being aware of the case study process, when you feel that you're low mental energy, low physical energy, and it just doesn't make sense to go forward, if you take the time and start jumping into it, what's the problem? Well, I've got depression or something. Well, what are all the relevant facts? Well, all these stress factors just happen. Well, what are all the possible solutions to start becoming happy and engaging life again? And you might, exercise, stay away from drugs and alcohol, be around energetic and happy, positive people. I mean, you can just start brainstorming all the possible solutions. But what's fabulous about this is we can use this to, in the midst of a divorce or a car accident or a DUI or whatever, sneaks into your life and you've got a major problem to solve. It also helps us to take, when God gives us lemons, to make lemonade. And we have to take the time to say, well, how can I convert these lemons into lemonade? Something that's bitter to something that's sweet. So this truly is a life-saving, life-preserver, life-saving formula, thought process that we can use much more than just the strategy of a business or career planning. Okay, so now we're just going to go step by step through the process. Step one, what's the problem? If I had a slingshot here, where am I going to aim this, or a bow and arrow? I mean, we have to, or a floodlight, or a laser beam versus a floodlight. We have to focus on what the problem we're going to solve. Because if we've got multiple things in the mix that we're trying to solve, it's kind of hard to focus on any one issue. So let's just take one issue at a time. In this case, we'll say the mission statement. What are we selling, to whom we're selling, and what makes us competitively different? So we have to pin down the problem as the very first step in the case study process as well as the strategic planning process. Next, we have to document all the relevant facts. And we've already been sharing that with you over and over again, but that's the biography, your psychological type, or the Myers-Briggs type indicator, and your career skill sets, things that you're really passionate about doing. So we want to get that stuff out, all the relevant facts that could influence the decisions, the ideas that we're going to play with, work with, analyze to solve the problem statement. We want to get all these relevant facts out in the open. No opinions, just facts. Next is what I think is the fun parts, but the brainstorming. This is where we want to think out of the box. So we want to come up with as many possible solutions to the problem as we can. If we can come up with 100 or 200, fabulous. It's important that as we go through this process, and if we're doing this with a group of people, not to critique anybody's ideas. In other words, if someone comes up with a possible solution, you don't go, oh, that's a stupid idea. There's no stupid ideas. The only requirement, though, is that each idea that we brainstorm and come up with, it should align with, it should be achievable with the relevant facts. There's got to be some kind of connection with the relevant facts. And that's why I have this next slide here, that when we put the biography up here, the Myers-Briggs type indicator and the Strong's inventory and that kind of information, the relevant facts have to be able to be executable or achievable given what we know about the focal manager or your life. And so that's an important point, that any kind of idea or solution should be achievable or be supported by the story of your life or the focal manager's life. Okay, now we want to consolidate all these ideas. And sometimes when I lead case study or strategic planning setting groups, we often take and put on Post-it pads all these ideas up on the wall. Then we have a lunch break and come back. And now we start this process of consolidating all these many ideas from, sex, drugs, and rock and roll to right-wing conservative religion and politics and everything in between. Looking north, east, south, and west, looking underneath rocks, every possible place we can for these ideas. Now we want to distill all these ideas down to 3 or 4 most likely solutions. And again, that's where we want to come up with a plan A, B, and C, if you will, or a mission statement A, B, and C, or a life direction plan A, B, and C, a compass direction. Again, A, B, and C type direction. And again, all of these, solutions, these are 3 to 4, no more than that, because you're going to understand why in a second, but they all have to be supported by the story of your life and your skill sets. So plan A, whether it's plan A, plan B, or plan C, we should see some kind of alignment there. Our next goal, once we've listed these 3 or 4 most likely solutions, each of them being independent of each other, now we need to go through this process and go, is plan A better than plan B? Is plan B better than plan C? Is plan C better than plan A or B? So it's just like going to an optometrist, when they put that that vision assessment machine in front of you and go, is it better this way or is it better that way? Is it better this way? Is it better that way? And then after we answer all those questions and go click, 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 we have perfect vision. And so by doing this, we can start to see, and this one here, we can start to see, and this is what we're looking for, by the way, Adam Smith's invisible hand. Our life does not come with an instruction manual. And so when we go through this case study or strategic planning process, we have to be looking for, understand the forces that led us to this point in life, to that point in life, because we want to take into consideration life destiny, the trajectory of our life. And no doubt, the best solution in terms of A, B, C, or D is going to be the solution that best aligns with your life story, your competitive skills, your psychological type. There's a sense of natural progression, natural alignment. And so this is a way now, and again, whether it's Adam Smith's invisible hand or the hand of God, but let's try to see and understand the forces that have led us to this point in life, and which of these alternatives best support and align with everything we've accomplished to this point in life. And one of the ways we can figure that out is to now take these 3 or 4 solutions and develop a SWOT analysis on them. And so we want to take each one and each solution, and we want to identify the strengths for each of the 3 or 4 solutions, the weaknesses of each of the 3 or 4 solutions. Now, no, strengths and weaknesses deal with internal issues of you, the business, if it's a case strategic planning process, but these are internal issues. And then opportunities and threats are an external issue. But now we want to identify, well, if we execute plan A versus plan B, what are the opportunities that we could achieve and capture with plan A versus B or C, etc. Same thing, what would be the threats that we would have for plan A or plan B, plan C, etc. And what's good is to develop some kind of chart here where we list, the strengths, weaknesses, threats, and opportunities for plan A, for plan B, and for plan C. And there's just something magical about doing this. The best solution that has the least amount of investment, that's easiest to execute, that has the highest return on investment and energy that goes into it, just floats to the top. It's just really kind of magical. And one of the things I like about the SWOT analysis process is that once you go to execute plan A or B or C, and things just don't go the way you plan them to go, well, you've got a backup plan in your back pocket all ready to go. So just like an athlete that practices a particular play or move over and over and over and over again, if all of a sudden you have to change up on the fly, you don't have to think about it. You've already got that backup plan in your head ready to go for a different situation. So next is to select the best, the highest and best fit idea and recommend your solution. If you're doing this individually, by the same token, if this is an agenda for a advisory board or a committee, then it's a matter of making a recommendation to senior management. So again, we go through everything, and which is better, one way or the other. But the ultimate objective is now we should have a mission statement, and then we can repeat this process over to come up with our vision of success statement, our organizational structure, and our phases of competitive development. I'm going to bring this slide back up again. So what you've just been exposed to is a way of solving problems that I want to encourage you to apply to parts of your life wherever you're between a rock and a hard place, in a conundrum, a complex situation. Consider stepping through the case study process to find a solution. We really, if you can become where you just innately do this, this is one of the steps in earning the right to become an entrepreneur. As we've brought up in other lectures, it's the 20-80 rule, which says 20% of the population creates jobs for the other 80% of the population. And understanding this thought process, this formula, this agenda, is one of the things that can earn you the right to be part of the 20% of the population that creates the jobs for the other 80% of the population. People who become entrepreneurs or enter corporate entrepreneurs or life entrepreneurs, there's many different forms of entrepreneurship. And anyone who masters the art form of entrepreneurship also tends to master this way of thinking. It's objective. It separates our emotions from the logical things we're looking at to come up with a highest and best solution while taking everything about us and other people into consideration. To that note, that concludes our little video here on the case study process. Our next video is going to be on the strategic planning process, because the objective of the case study process is to focus on your life, your situation. The output of that is going to be a career plan mission statement that is going to morph into a business mission statement. So now we're going to go through the next video is going to go through the same steps, but now it's going to focus on the strategic planning process for the actual business.